Hello and welcome back to Tennis Unfiltered with me, James Gray of the iPaper. We have to start with an apology. And actually, maybe for the first time ever, George Bellshaw making a very successful prediction because he started last week's show by telling us that he felt like he was coming down with something. And sure enough, he has come down with something. So George is absent this week and sends his regards. He's been in bed for about 2.5 days. So wishing you well, George. I didn't even make him record a voice note, which I usually do just to make myself laugh. But I've got Calvin Betton here, live from Gay Paris instead, our resident two-time Grand Slam winning tennis coach, as I've just read for an exciting radio advertisement coming to your airwaves soon. Calvin, this is your sort of quite fun European tour, Vienna and Paris, the two great cities of Central Europe. You didn't spend much time in Vienna, but Paris hopefully a bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, Vienna is one of the great cities of Europe. We'll leave it at that.
Do you not like Paris?
No, I don't like Paris, no.
Is it the French or is it the...
It's the most overrated city in the world, like by a mile. Like everything good in Paris is in about a 100-metre square block. Like there's not a lot outside of that. And French food is the most overrated food in the world without a shadow of a doubt. Mainly overrated by themselves, I should say.
I do slightly sympathise. I mean, I don't agree on the culinary aspect, but my great frustration when doing the French Open or spending any time in Paris, and you won't appreciate this, is the coffee is awful because the French over-roast their coffee and it's really, really bitter. And so I spend my whole time trying to find an Australian coffee shop near where I'm staying because the Australians don't get influenced by the French.
Right.
And still know how to make a decent coffee. But if anyone knows good Australian coffee shops near Roland Garros, that's something I always look to put on my list. So do let us know. tennisunfiltered@gmail.com if you want to get in touch. We've actually got a really packed show. I'm quite disappointed George isn't here because we've got a lot of heavy lifting to do this week, Calvin. There's an awful lot that has been going on. We will, of course, talk about Saudi Arabia because they, to use football parlance, got their man last week. We'll talk about Jannik Sinner and his success in Vienna. We'll talk about the Davis Cup and Jannik Sinner's lack of success in that, a little bit of a PR disaster. And we'll look ahead to the Paris Masters. We'll mention Linda Noskova's run to the final of Tokyo because it's quite amusing. And then we'll even talk about Joao Fonseca if we have the time. But Calvin, it sort of seems appropriate given we talked a lot about Saudi Arabia last week, and I know it's a bit of a cause celebre for you. But only maybe 24 hours after last week's podcast came out and after we were discussing the latest tennis event in Saudi Arabia, it was confirmed that Saudi Arabia will host and have signed an agreement to host an ATP Masters 1000 tournament as early as 2028. Just if you have been living under a rock and you haven't got the details of this, it's going to be a 1-week, 56-player draw. It won't be a mandatory event. And at present, it looks like a men's-only event rather than a joint one. The exact timing and venue remains uncertain, but we're expecting it to end up in that February slot after the Australian Open, which is a bit of a victory for the Australians, obviously, because they get to preserve their swing. It's understood the base prize money will be in line with other Masters events, but as it's a non-mandatory, we can probably expect some appearance fees to start splashing around. And Andrea Gadenzi calls it, the chairman of the ATP Tour, a proud moment for the organisation. PIF's ambition for the sport is clear, and we believe fans and players alike will be amazed by what's coming. Calvin, I know this will have gone down badly with you. I wonder what it's gone down like sort of more widely in the locker room or whether players are even that bothered. I don't know.
I mean, first of all, it's a shame that none of the players are going to play it because all of these players who are really concerned about the toll that the schedule takes on their body, they're just not going to play a non-mandatory Masters, are they, James? I can't think of any reason why they would. And exactly. I imagine they're furious about it. The tennis players who are complaining about the schedule, another tournament added to the schedule, and shame that they won't get to play in Saudi Arabia because they don't want to be playing more tournaments.
Yes, indeed. But although, of course, they will, and I mean, even the people who tell me that you're not allowed to pay appearance fees at that level of tournament will know that there are ways of paying appearance fees. There always are.
I mean, there's a lot to unpick, James. For Andrea Gadenzi, I mean, it's a mark of the man that anybody who's claiming how proud tennis should be to have found itself in Saudi Arabia. That's a mark of the man, really. And the ethics and morals of Andrea Gadenzi. I mean, yeah, that's a ridiculous comment to make to start with. It's just grim. It's really grim. Regular listeners know what my opinion is on Saudi Arabia and tennis as bending the knee to get there. I think it's just wrong on so many levels. It's wrong from an ethical point of view, that a country that has a horrendous human rights record, has archaic laws, treats women with such disdain that it sickens me, treats homosexuality as illegal, treats immigrants as their slaves. It still has the death penalty. It still has public executions weekly in the town square in Riyadh. It's complete sports washing, what they're trying to do. But I don't even know if they're having to sports wash anymore, James, to be honest, because people just seem to want to go there all the time, and it's purely based on money, and it's just pretty depressing.
Yeah, I think the sort of moral argument has faded away, really. I said it when basically the golf deal was done to align Live Golf with the rest of the tour. That was kind of a watershed moment for sports relationship with Saudi Arabia, and that anyone who could would fall in line and go and take the Saudi dollar quite happily, because what golf proved is that you can do it and no one gets in trouble, you know.
I think it's the thing is with it, and I had discussions with some of the players last week and some of the people around the tournaments. And listen, my position on it remains the same: is that people keep saying to me, "Oh, well, you wouldn't turn it down. It's life-changing money." For me, it would be life-changing money, and I'd like to think that I don't know because I'm not being put in the situation, but I don't know whether I would take it. For these people, it's not life-changing money. The people who we're talking about, these tennis players, they are already wealthy beyond all belief. They have so much money. So, like I said on last week's pod, the 6 million that Jannik Sinner got last week, it won't change his life one bit. That 6 million, what you could even next year, the 12 million, he won't ever get down to that 12 million. It's not life changing money. It comes down to greed again, and it's not really players. The players, even if the players say, "Look, I'm not sure about this. I don't want to do this Six Kings thing." The agents on the phone go, "Well, it's a lot of money for me. There's a lot of commission money there, and I've done a lot of favours for you and that kind of thing." But it's just terrible, James. It's depressing, and I also think it's wrong just on a basis of like how the rules just go out of the way on these things when the Saudis come in. Like Masters tournaments should go to the tournaments that have proven themselves over time, to the areas that have proven themselves, like South America, Central America. These countries deserve bigger tournaments. They're great tournaments. The tournaments that they hold there now are great tournaments. The players love going there. The fans love witnessing it. They're great crowds. The places are fantastic cities that people want to go to. And these tournaments are busting their balls to try and get themselves up the ladder to become, if they're a 250, to become a 500. If they're a 500, to become a Masters. And then one place comes and goes, "We'll pay you enough money to take all that out of the window."
I mean, it's a good point you make about the tournaments that are going to suffer, because it looks like, I see Ben Rothenberg reporting this, and I'm sure other people have, that what they're going to do is delete 5 tournaments roughly from the calendar, 500s and 250s to make space. Now, the likelihood is that's going to be those tournaments in that February slot. So you're either talking the South American, the Sunshine, what do we call it? The Golden Swing, the Argentina Open and Rio and Acapulco, I guess, would be at risk. You've also got the European indoors there. There's one in Marseille, one in Rotterdam. There's a couple in the US as well.
Why would they have to get rid of that many, though, if it's just a one-weeker?
Well, I suppose they're going to have to get rid of 3, right, in order to facilitate it in the schedule.
Why?
I think because there are 3 tournaments in every week in February.
Oh, you mean right? Okay, I thought you meant for 3 weeks.
No, exactly.
Right, okay.
Because there's so many tournaments overlapping at the same time.
Well, I mean, they could. Why don't they just take to one of the Middle East countries? You're losing yours. Doha, you're losing yours. Why are we going to?
I don't think they're so they're going to operate, as I understand it, they're going to operate basically they've got a pot of money and they're going to buy back these licenses. Now, obviously, some of those tournament owners are going to see it as an opportunity to divest and go, "Well, you've offered me more money than we paid for it, so I guess we'll just take it." As I understand it, Qatar and the UAE are not keen to give up their licenses. So
it's important that we keep bowing down to whoever's got the most money in tennis, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean that's the reality, I think, of what's going to happen. Is we are probably going to lose at least one of those South American tournaments. that tournament in Marseille, always pretty well attended. I think it was won by a French doubles pair and a French singles player this year, which is great. Those real... Actually, I tell you what, I'm going to read a line that I saw Charlie Eccleshare write about this, talking about South America specifically. A country with barely any tennis heritage has effectively overleapt a continent with a rich history in the sport and with one of the most fervent sets of supporters anywhere in the world. I think that does kind of sum it up a little bit. If you do end up getting rid of, I don't know, Buenos Aires and Rio to accommodate the Saudi Arabian Masters that will be played in front of not that many people and certainly not many tennis fans.
Well, it's not like tennis any different from the other sports. It's kind of the last one to I begrudge calling it a party, really, because it's,
grimmer than that.
It's pretty grim, isn't it? But, that's the problem though, James. No one cares. That's where we're at. And it makes me sick, to be honest. It makes me sick that tennis as a sport and tennis players just don't care at all about it. But then society doesn't seem to care anymore either. All I'm getting is, when I'm speaking with people about it, people defending the honour of millionaires and millionaires' ability to earn more money at the expense of those who don't have any.
I'm going to ask you a difficult question here, Calvin, and I'm not asking you to speak for your players, because whether they play this tournament will be their decision. But if a player you are coaching in 2028 says, "Oh, I'm putting this on my schedule," what would you do?
I mean, I imagine they will. I imagine they'll go. They're professional tennis players, and it's now a tournament where it's an opportunity to earn money. The people who I get most angry with, it's twofold. I'd like to think my players are not going to go and start talking about, it's maybe we can enforce change from within, and maybe we can, it's not that bad. Look at some westernized countries; they're even worse because they have some opioid crisis, and that's almost as bad as publicly executing gay people in the street, and that kind of thing. There's rent in London is really expensive now, and that's equal to women having their hands chopped off because their husband cheated on them or something like that.
Or people just getting locked up for having a dissenting voice against the regime, which is the most common infringement of human rights.
Or even worse, journalists getting killed and then chopped up and put in bags and that kind of thing. But where I'm going on that is, I don't think either of my players are going to be doing that. I think they can be kind of proud of that. I expect they will go if they can, because it's in itself, it's no different, really. There are other countries. China, for example, has a terrible human rights record, and we go and play there. But we're not asked to talk up the merits of China when we're there. What I have a problem with, the biggest problem, James, I've said this when the golf thing happened, I'll say it now, people using a false equivalence that really winds me up of, this is not life-changing money to the singles players. Like, they could do without it. Their lives will not change if they go and get money from Saudi Arabia. Whereas players who I coach, Henry and Luke and Harry, their lives might change if they can win a big tournament in Saudi. It's a lot of money. They don't have the money where they can say they can just give it up. And I wouldn't begrudge my friends that. One of my friends applied for a job in Saudi Arabia a few years ago, and he was like, he wasn't, by any stretch, he wasn't asking my permission, but he was like, what do you think? And I was like, look, he's got a family and a kid. And I'm like, look, do what's best for your family and your kid. It's not, I wouldn't personally like to go and live in Saudi Arabia and work there and that kind of thing. But look, I know what I can say is I have not gone to Dubai and Qatar in the last 2 years when I've had the offer to. I don't really have a desire to go there from a travelling point of view and a desire to go and earn their money. I disagree with the way those countries operate their countries, operate themselves. I like to think that I'm a little bit more ethically grounded than that, but I don't wish to speak down on people who do go. My players have gone and played in them. It's not a place where I really want to go, to be honest.
Now, were I a political journalist and you a politician, Calvin, I would be following up and saying, but will you go in 2028 so that then when you do go and you said you wouldn't, I can catch you out? But I'm not necessarily going to do that.
Listen, I'll answer the question, James. It's the same as when the lads, when we talk about their schedules, I'll say to them, look, when for example, like Boris coaches Harry, and Boris coaches Harry and Henry, and I coach Harry and Henry. I'll say, Boris, if you want, you take Doha if you want it. But at the same time, I'm in a position where I can do that. But at the same time, if the lads go, look, Boris can't do it, we really need a coach in Doha, then I go, yeah, it's my job. I have to do it. But I'm not the one who's going like, get me on the first flight there. I'm desperate to get some of this Saudi money, inject it into my veins immediately. I don't care about anything to do with human rights.
And as you said earlier, you're not going to be there with your list of talking points from the tournament and talking up how well they're treating you and all the nice things that you've been doing in Riyadh.
No,
if you did,
but I suspect I'll be in the minority in doing that. And I suspect, but I think it's also important to remember that all the Saudis, they want the stars. If you're not a star, make no mistake, they don't really want you there. And at the earliest moment, they'll cut you out because that's the way it works. I know I have friends who work in the fields of sports that have dealt with the Saudi Arabians, and they will cut the fields to just have the stars at the earliest possible moment.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's a 56 one-weeker, which obviously is I think that's the same as Monte Carlo. It's the same setup.
But what's to stop, like, if they announce in a year's time they want a 2-weeker, 1-8, they'll do it. Tennis will do it. If they say they want a Grand Slam, tennis will allow it. They'll bow down for the money. They don't care. Yeah.
I'm just sort of academically thinking, well, would they want it? Like, would Serge, the sporting wing of PIF, would they want a 1-8? Do they care about the players ranked between 60 and 120 in the world?
That's a good point, yeah.
And I'm not sure that they do. I assume this Masters event will feature doubles. Who knows what the entry system will look like by then?
It will have to. But then again, I mean, the ATP, the rules that the ATP have, James, are not worth the paper they're written on. And I'll give you 2 examples of that. So 2 rules that the ATP have in their rule books that is written in there. One is that, and again, the first one affects me, but, it's what it is. The doubles events in the ATP will have an 80-20 prize money share. Just no longer the case this week. Like in Paris, not the case anymore. In this tournament, singles prize money has gone up, doubles prize money has stayed the same, but they've also added teams to doubles, so the overall prize money is less to each team. So the prize money that the pairs get is actually less than it was last year because they've added 4 teams.
Oh, right.
But the singles prize money has gone up. So last year it was 80-20. They've just put it up. I think Indian Wells did the same. I think another tournament had done it. Just written in the rules, but, doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway. Another one, the ATP has it written in its rule book that any indoor tournament has to have 3 match courts, a minimum of 3 match courts and 2 practice courts on site. This tournament in Paris has 4 match courts and only 1 practice court on site. Now, you'd think that would be a problem, James. But it's not, because the ATP just rewrote its rules.
Crazy.
So a tournament could have 4 match courts and 1 practice court.
Which presumably means that you're just not able to practice on site most of the time.
No one is. Everyone's going and practicing off site. But what's the point in having the rule? What's the point in having the rule if someone comes, we haven't got that. It's all right, we'll change it. And it's 80-20 prize money for singles, doubles. We'll just change it. The same happened a couple of years, last year in the doubles, when they were changing the entry requirements in doubles and the deadlines and how you got in. And the doubles guys said, no, wait a minute, it's written in your rules, you can't do that. They went, no, it is, we've just changed it. So, wait a minute, why have you got handbook? Why have you got rule book? If you just change them.
Yeah, it's true. It does seem remarkably flexible, to give it a slightly generous term.
And then, James, there must have been a reason why they figured out that there needs to be 3 match courts, 2 practice courts at an indoor tournament. So there must have been a reason why they've set those criteria to then go, change them. Infuriating.
Well, it's very early on for you to be such high blood pressure in the podcast.
Well, you have covered the ATP and Saudi Arabia, 2 of my real
Yeah, I apologise straight out the gate. Right, in a minute, we'll talk about Jannik Sinner. Now, let's go back to Vienna, shall we? Take you back, Calvin, away from a city you hate to a city you love. And let's talk about Jannik Sinner, shall we? Because he beat Alexander Zverev in the final to claim his 4th title of the season, his 2nd title in Vienna. He's got a record of 48-6 now this year, which is pretty impressive, and he's won 21 indoor hard court matches in a row. Obviously, as I mentioned, Calvin, you were in Vienna. I appreciate you were working the doubles draw, not the singles draw, but with one eye on the singles, did this just feel like the way the form book was going and no one was ever going to stop him? He was a set down in the final, though.
I mean, I guess so, but it felt like a completely different tournament, James. I went to eat at the main site the first day I arrived last Sunday, and I never went back to the main site after that. I know Henry didn't go to the main site at all and made the semi-finals of the doubles. So,
but they played it on this incredible second court, though, right?
Yeah, the doubles was all up until the final was played at the second site, which was a very cool site, to be fair. It was an old. They've changed it. It was a temporary structure the last few years for the second site at Vienna and wasn't great. But now they've rented out big. It used to be a cattle market.
Wow.
Like a huge building that I think now is like a sort of convention centre, and kitted it out with 3 tennis courts, 2 match courts and 1 practice. And then the main site, for those listening to the previous discussion, has 1 match court and 1 practice. So that's in total 3 match courts, 2 practice.
As you're supposed to have. Yeah,
As you're supposed to have, yeah. But, they could change that if they want.
Rules have to be changed at some point, Calvin. Stop being such a stick in the mud.
Exactly, yeah. But, going back to your question, James, yeah, I mean, I think Sinner was, these 500s, I mean, he just cleans them up for fun, doesn't he, really?
Mm. Well, when he's fit, I mean, and it should be noted there was a wobble in the middle, and it does feel a bit like, I mean, he's obviously got this record, hasn't he, Jannik Sinner, of never having won a match. Is it over 3.5 hours he's never won a match? I need to check the exact number on that, but...
That's a bit misrepresentative. How many people last that long with it?
But that's exactly it, right? One of the game plans, and there aren't many game plans to beat Jannik Sinner, right? But one of the game plans is take it as deep as you possibly can, and just keep him out there as long as you can, because
people used to say that with Mike Tyson, I think.
I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but there is a little bit out there where you can say, well, if you can just keep him going. Right, he has actually broken that record now.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some wins in long match. He won his first slam in a long match, didn't he beat, was it Medvedev he beat from 2 sets to
Medvedev down? In 3 hours 44. I mean, he's still never won one over 4 hours. I mean, tennis matches shouldn't go over 4 hours. How many has he played? It's a great question, and I can actually check. He has played more than you think, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches over 4 hours, and he's lost them all. Okay. So, there is a little bit of data there. I'd like to maybe run a slightly more wide-ranging kind of data set and see, whether there is a correlation, with longer matches at 2.5 hours or something. And he did against Zverev look wobbly. There was I think he might be learning the Djokovic dead duck act, because he limped his way through a game. I thought he was going to pull out. I was like, oh, crikey, this is over. And then all of a sudden, I think he lost about 4 games after that. So, yeah, I don't know. I listened to a very good tactical breakdown, actually, of the match this morning. Jill Gross, which I know lots of other listeners do listen to. And he pulled a stat, which you'll like, Calvin, and I'd be quite interested to scrutinise it. He said that Zverev's average forehand speed in the final was 80 miles an hour, which was higher than Sinner's. But in the 2 key points of the match, which is 5-all deuce in the third and 5-all ad break point in the third, his forehand speed dropped 5 miles an hour. And so I wonder whether we might deduce from that Zverev's forehand is improving, but he still doesn't trust it in the big moments, right?
Yeah, I don't, it's just not a good shot. It's not a good shot at all. We played against it last week.
Yeah, so is it, I mean, of course you beat Zverev and Melo. Is it that the forehand, the fact that he's got this speed up, is that part of the problem, that he's not able to generate the racket head speed, or he's not able to hit it with enough cover, or? I
think it's a combination of a lot of things. I've witnessed it a couple of times up close. We've played them twice this year and beat them easy both times. It's technically just I'm not a big one on people love. I know there's certain people on Twitter who love talking about mechanics in inverted commas. I'm not big on it myself. People think it's a lot more complex than what it is. They love thinking. I mean, there's some frauds who've got careers out of it, like that guy who's coaching Coco Golf. It's basically just understanding how to hit forehand and things. And technically, it's not a great shot. There's certain things that he could improve if he was coached properly. And there's certain things that's probably beyond help. But I certainly think he could improve it. Whether it would turn into a great forehand or not, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's a bit late for that. But I think he could hit his forehand better. But it's the same as, once you get to this age now, there's an old phrase I think in coaching, but I think it's probably from athletics. You can't make a slow person fast, but you can make a slow person a little bit faster.
Interesting.
And I think that, and that's very true. That does hold firm. You just can't make somebody who is naturally slow fast. There's no amount of doing that, but they can run a bit quicker. And I think with Zverev's forehand, you can't make his forehand great. You can make it a bit better.
Can you just delineate for me? There's a distinction there that you made that I don't fully understand, which is between, you say there's stuff he could do technically better, but not mechanically.
No, I think people think, when I think people talk about mechanics, I think they talk about breaking things down in in sort of, the elbow needs to be here, the shoulder needs to be here, and the wrist needs to go there, and then you turn your body at this point. Whereas I think it could be easily that stuff doesn't help, and no one gets better with that. It just makes coaches sound like they know what they're talking about when they usually don't. When I'm talking, what I was be thinking is the feelings he gets when he hits the ball. Having a more spark in his shoulder or something like that. We say, spark the shoulder on contact, have a slow, fast rhythm and momentum on the racket towards the ball, and that kind of thing. Those types of things would be, it's not what it's meant to be, but it would be more called sensational coaching. You're coaching through sensation and feelings rather than going, I see a lot of people. And again, people bang this drum a lot. People are going the elbow needs to go here at this point. You see you see Instagram videos on it where people have got videos where they've overlaid angles and stuff the elbow needs to be at 37 degrees here to the shoulder at 92 degrees and that kind of thing. You've never played tennis, have you?
I suppose what that is, is that, that's very much like a coaching approach to it, because what you've understood there is that if you tell a player to put their elbow at 37 degrees just before they serve, they can't do it. But if you tell them to think about doing X or Y, it has the same impact, right? But it's about...
No, it kind of doesn't, because there's no correct technique. That's the thing. There is no correct technique or incorrect technique. There are fundamentals that you need, but when people talk about technique, he's got great technique. What they mean is it's aesthetically pleasing. And I've used this that there's factually no correct technique, because I said this. It's a bit out of date now because none of them are playing anymore. But at the time, when it was happening, there was a time when the three best forehands in the world were Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Juan Martín del Potro. Now, all of them great forehands. You could even argue that they're the three greatest forehands of all time. You can argue it, but let's say at the time these are the three best forehands in the world, but they've all got three completely different techniques. They all look completely different. So which two have got the wrong technique, in inverted commas, and who's going to tell the other two that your forehand technique is wrong? So that there is no, in order to have a right technique, you have to have a wrong technique. And nothing. I see. So that there isn't a wrong technique. There's just what is aesthetically pleasing. Federer had the most aesthetically pleasing forehand. So people would go, "Oh, Federer's got the right technique." Does he? Because Rafa Nadal's forehand ain't bad. When Martin Del Potro's forehand is bigger than both of them. So there is no correct technique. There are things that you want to be. There's the feelings that you have on the ball and in your body when you hit the ball. Sometimes it comes out looking like Roger Federer's, which everybody would like. Sometimes it comes out looking like Juan Martín del Potro's, which is a little bit not quite as good looking as Roger Federer's, but I wouldn't mind his forehand.
No, indeed. But you would mind Alexander Zverev's, and that was the downfall in the end. Interesting to see Sinner. There's a number that the ATP have managed to produce, Tennis Insights managed to produce for the variety. And Jannik Sinner is still well down on tour average, I think is 19. But he is got up to 14 in that final and deployed his drop shot a bit more than we've seen in the past. And obviously that is part of that's the way to beat Zverev, right? Move him around, make him move. It's not his strong point. And that was partially what turned the match around. He also, and I don't know, this is maybe one to watch next time they play Calvin, because Sinner's kind of got his number now in terms of the head-to-head. And Zverev only hit 2 backhand winners in the entire match on Sunday. And
what do I always say, James, about your backhand being your best shot?
It's the worst weapon. Is that the exact phrase?
It's the most pointless weapon in tennis.
Well, we can add that to the list of reasons why Alexander Zverev hasn't won a Grand Slam, along with umpires, balls, coaching. There's something else as well. We'll start a little diary maybe of Alexander Zverev's reasons he hasn't won a Grand Slam. It'd be quite a good book. Anyway, we got dragged off topic, Calvin, and it's meant I've not been able to make a good segue I planned earlier. So just pretend at home I've made a great segue into Jannik Sinner pulling out the Davis Cup. Because Italy are the defending champions and the hosts of the Davis Cup finals later this year. And Jannik Sinner is not going to play. He said, I'm a 2-time Davis Cup winner. My team and I made this decision because the season is very long at the end of the year and I need an extra week of rest to start my preparation earlier. The goal is to get off to a good start in Australia. As you can imagine, in Italy, this went down like a cappuccino at 11:30 in the morning. Badly. The front page of Gazzetta dello Sport screamed, Sinner ripensaci, which I'm told means Sinner, think again. And it was in a football week as well, which tells you how, and that was the splash on the front of Gazzetta, so that tells you how badly it went down. The editorial was horrendously biting, made reference to the $6 million he earned in Riyadh, obviously, and added, I love this, pasta, coffee, every 5 minutes you promote an Italian product, do it with tennis too. I just thought it was so good. It's like really... And then Nicola Pietrangeli, who I have to say I didn't realise was still alive, but fair enough, he's 92 and he is still alive. And until Sinner came along, was Italy's most successful tennis player, having won the French Open twice. He called it a big slap in the face to the Italian sports world. Calvin, I wonder where you stand on this, because it's fair to say, and everyone acknowledges, that Davis Cup ain't what it used to be, as many things are. But when you're the defending champions and the hosts, you do sort of rely on your best player turning up, at least to sell a few tickets.
Yeah, I mean, he's a massive star. I don't think they're going to have problems selling tickets, James. It's Davis Cup in Italy, and they're still favourites to win it, I think, with the team that they can put out. They've got a top 10 doubles team. They've got a top 10 singles player. They've got another, I think, top 25 singles player, and they've got a guy who's been in 2 Grand Slam finals.
Yeah. The team, incidentally, if people can't do the maths on that, is Musetti, Cobolli, Berrettini, and then Vavasori and Bellelli being the doubles team.
Yeah, so believe me, they're going to have no issues selling the place out. So it's not for that. I mean, look, there's 2 ways of looking at it. If he plays, they're almost unbeatable, I think, with what they've got. When Musetti's your second player, then it's a struggle for anybody to beat you. And when you've got a very good doubles pair as well. All it's done is it's brought the field back. Look, he has played a lot. He's played a lot for them. He's won it for them the last 2 years. I'm certain he'll play again. I mean, I also think they've got a right to be a bit disappointed. He hasn't played a full season. It's more bullshit that tennis players come out with, like, I need the extra week. Like, do you? Like, what? Does Alcaraz not? Alcaraz played a full season. He doesn't need the extra week.
And Davis Cup finals, even if you win it, is only 3 singles matches. I mean, I suppose that would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Would they swap him in for doubles? Probably would, wouldn't they?
I mean, I don't know. The problem is that Bellelli Vavasori not being in the greatest form.
Right.
And they're an excellent team, Bellelli Vavasori, but indoor hard probably isn't their best surface.
I see. Okay.
So there's a chance. I mean, last year I think they played Berrettini with I forget who they played Berrettini with. They played Berrettini with Sonego, maybe. Was it?
Is that right? I'm just going to check it. I can't remember now. They declared Bellelli and Vavasori, and they didn't need them in the semis. In the quarters, Berrettini and Sinner beat Gonzalez and Molteni in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but look, he has a right to not play as well.
I was thinking about it because it's always difficult with these national things to kind of connect with it. And I was thinking about it with Andy Murray. If he had won it 2 years in a row and then said, look, I know we're in the finals and I know it's in London and we're the double defending champions. If he had won it 2 years in a row and then said, I need an extra week off to prepare, would we begrudge him that? Would people be writing editorials in, I don't know, the Daily Mail saying, I mean, they probably would in the Daily Mail saying you let your country down. But, like, I'm not sure that I would sit on this podcast. If you take 2016, right? When Andy was struggling quite a lot with injury, but he was also the best player in the world. Would I have said, I don't know. I genuinely don't have an answer, and I'm just sort of thinking out loud. But
yeah, I mean, look, I probably err slightly on Sinner's side on this in that I think he's done his share, and I think he'll be back to do more. You know, I think it's fine to go, look, I just want a year off. You know, and I think, you know, he probably thinks, look, you've got it in the bag. Like, you know, say, for example, if Musetti was injured, he might think differently and think, right, I'm going to have to come in now and play a bit. But, you know, there's no point having all this depth if you can't cope if one player's out. And Italy have a lot of depth.
yeah, fair enough.
I mean, they could even play Vavasori, who's their double specialist. Is like, I think he's still ranked about 130 in singles, or he has been.
Yeah, he has been. I think he's dropped to like 300 now. But
he made quarterfinals of Rotterdam this year. He qualified and made quarterfinals of singles in Rotterdam.
Didn't you say he won a challenger this year as well? Or I made that up?
He definitely made final, maybe.
Okay.
Won one. Can't remember whether he won it or made final.
That's quite rogue. I mean, I wonder, maybe you may not have insight on this, but I wonder why he's still playing singles.
Some of these guys just love it, James. Some of the guys just love playing. It's like, you know, and why not? You know,
yeah.
I think Bolelli was having a week off and he thought, right, go play challenger singles.
Yeah, good on him. I feel like I'd quite like to hang out with Andrea Vavasori.
Feels like unbelievable guy. Great guy. And Bolelli is as well. Like both great lads, you know, just real top lads. The Italians, I mean, they have a physio. Like, their physio, I don't know his name. I always say hello to him and shake his hand, and he's from Naples. And he has the muscliest hands of anyone I've ever met. He gives me the hand clasp every day, and it's like doing a hand clasp with somebody who has a cricket ball in the palm of his hand.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
I mean, I wouldn't want to rumble with this guy.
Noted. Yeah, it's funny on Bolelli actually.
I remember I can't go into too much detail, but earlier on in America there was a spat on court between two players. Pretty tasty on a practice court. Vavasori goes like, I was just stood next to him when it had died down a little bit, and Vava said to me like, "Oh, good job he didn't get involved." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "From Naples." Say no more.
I mean, yeah, that does that explains everything, right? On the Davis Cup, more Davis Cup controversy, which we love after this. So I mentioned Davis Cup controversy before the break, Calvin. Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, a man from whom controversy is rarely far. He's not been picked by Spain, despite being the Spanish number 2 in singles and at a career high of, I think, 15 in the world. It should be pointed out, and I could be wrong here, but Spain have only named 4 players. So in theory, he could still get picked, but I suspect at this point, David Ferrer won't be minded to pick him because he's come out in the media and says he thinks he deserves the chance to play for his country. He hasn't played Davis Cup so far this year. But Calvin, you had quite an interesting point on this when I sort of dropped it in the WhatsApp group, and I did say, well, for once I sort of agree with Davidovich Fokina. He is the Spanish number 2, but you sort of pointed out that the prize money situation suggests that it's a bit unfair on the other chaps if you just rope them in.
So what happens is, the qualifying stage of Davis Cup, the money is not great. The Davis Cup finals is phenomenal money, especially if you've got a chance of winning. I don't know the exact amounts, but it's huge money to a lot of these guys, especially, you know, if you're not in the top 30 in the world, it's massive money. And what happens is when you make the final, they're treated as 2 independent events. So you have the amount that you get paid for the qualifying, and you have the amount from the finals. Now, the money is then distributed. It comes into each country as a pot, and most countries have an agreement that they split it either evenly, like between everybody on the team, or there is a sort of hierarchy of, you know, the number 1 singles player gets this amount, the number 2 singles player gets this amount, you know, blah, blah, blah. But whatever way it is, it's that pot of money split between the people in the team. Now, a lot of countries, and I give the example of Austria on this because I know that this happened with Austria, is that Austria sort of went to the qualifying without much hope at all. I forget who they were playing. James is going to tell us in a minute because he's always got this kind of stuff on hand. But Austria have qualified for the finals without having a top 100 singles player playing. And it was a phenomenal achievement for them. But Sebastian Offner opted out because I think he wasn't going to qualify. He thinks that they weren't going to qualify. Who did they play, James?
They played Hungary in Hungary.
Hungary in Hungary. Yeah. So they had their 5 players, I think. I think it would have been Erla Miedler in the doubles. Then they probably had Misalic and Rodionov, maybe.
Neumeier they had, and Rodionov, actually.
Neumeier and then probably Misalic probably was the 5th player. And they ended up qualifying. So they ended up winning. So these 5 guys who, without their number 1 player, without their best player, have, I think he was probably dropped down the rankings because he's been injured as Offner, but he opted out of playing. They qualified, so now they're in for a huge amount. They actually play Italy in the first round, but they're in for a real payday now. But then as soon as they won, then Offner started letting it be known that he wanted to play in the finals. And so those guys are like, no, wait a minute, because we did all the hard work of getting us through. He didn't want to play. And now he wants to come in, and either he comes in and we split the money 6 ways, or he comes in and he just takes a place of somebody, and one of those players doesn't get the big payday. And I think that's what's happening with Davidovich Fokina, that he didn't play the first time. I don't know whether he opted out, but he wasn't in there. But I think all the players, and they've already got Alcaraz coming in, which you kind of give a pass on because it's like Carlos Alcaraz. So I imagine that they're going to split the money 6 ways because I think Carreno Buster has dropped out, hasn't he, James? Although he might come in, I guess.
He played earlier, but I mean, he might get picked. I actually don't know if he's fit, but there's one more space in the team depending on who they go for.
Yeah, and so then I think they're probably going, well, if we do this now and we bring Davidovich Fokina in, then it's split between 7 ways. And so somebody's getting hit, everyone or someone's getting hit quite badly when Davidovich Fokina didn't have any part to play in the qualifying at all. And I think that that's the root of the problem with it, that teams tend to want to pick the team who's got them qualified, unless you've got a superstar. And on top of that, Jamie Munar has had a pretty good year. Davidovich Fokina's had a good year as well, to be fair to him, but Jamie Munar is only, I think, 12 places below him on the ranking, about maybe 18 places or something like that below him on the rankings. I think he's 34 in the world, so it's hardly a mug that you've got playing instead. I think that's why it is, and also Davidovich Fokina is not the most popular player. But they could well be. I mean, I don't know. I know he gets on well with his mates with Alcaraz, but there might be some of the players going, no, we don't want him around. He's a bit of an idiot.
Well, and they might want to practice in the morning, and we know he doesn't like playing tennis in the mornings.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
Anyway, thought that was an interesting one.
I know that, a little bit of inside info. Davidovich Fokina wasn't the best behaved at the Barcelona Open this year. He was being a bit of a prat at that tournament, and David Ferrer this was his last year as tournament director of the Barcelona Open.
May not have made many friends in Barcelona. I see. Okay. Right. Well, I mentioned you're in Paris, Calvin, and you've already had a whinge about the Paris Masters, but we should note that it is in a new venue this year. It's at what is a spectacular arena. I can say from experience, because I was at La Défense Arena for the swimming in the Paris Olympics. It's usually a rugby stadium, and now it is a tennis stadium with 16,500 seats.
So this is what I can ask, James. Do they play rugby indoors there?
Yeah, it's a fully indoor rugby stadium.
Yeah, because I know it's a rugby field, but I'm trying to figure out what they played there. So one of the teams just plays indoors.
Yeah, it's Racing, isn't it? Yeah, and it's spectacular and incredibly noisy.
It's absolutely huge. It's massive, and it's a real unique place because the court is. I mean, I like the court colours actually. It's green on the inside and black on the outside. But if you're on one of the outside courts, not the centre court, because that has a big Titantron at the top, but if you're on one of the outside courts, it's almost entirely pitch black, surrounded by black. The curtains around it are black, and the roof is so high and pitch black as well that it's quite a unique sort of atmosphere and vibe that you don't get anywhere else, really.
So, I mean, it is interesting. I don't know. Did you go to Paris-Bercy when it was in? I mean, I went during the Olympics, so the gymnastics and the basketball there, and it's fine. It's quite a good arena. It's not as big as La Défense. It's also in a sort of slightly ropey bit of Paris. Whereas, as you know, Calvin, and as people have seen from the outside shots, La Défense is it's like living in the 23rd century.
It's a really impressive arena. Yeah, I mean, it's massive. It's the only. If I'm going to have a criticism of it, I said to Luke today afterwards. I mean, Luke lost today, and certainly wasn't using this as any kind of excuse. He just used it as an observation. because you've got the centre court, which is kind of in a section of it's similar to what they do with the Miami Open. They've taken a quarter of the actual stadium off and then put another two sides of temporary standing around it. And then the other courts are just kind of on their own, like behind a curtain. But Luke was on the middle court today. So there's a centre, then I think there's court 2 and court 3, and then court 1 is like in a different part of the arena. But there's a hell of a lot going on. There's a big sort of sensory,
echoey
sensory challenge, because like there's a court next to you where the umpire, you can hear the umpire, it's like right next to you. So the line calling and the umpire is constantly loud, and it would be the same from our court as well, and vice versa. There's only a curtain separating it from centre where they play play loud music every change of ends. So it's like, it felt like there's a kind of lot going on, when you're trying to play a tennis match.
Yeah, I can see that's a challenge. What about conditions on the court?
Very slow. Very slow.
Is that because they're just brand new courts?
Well, I mean, they're temporary courts, aren't they?
Yeah.
The courts are not there all the time. Probably so, but I imagine they've made them. They were rapid last year, apparently. It was like glass last year. But again, with slow courts, they chew up the balls. And then we were saying today, Henry was saying that, I was talking to him about it, that the conditions are slow and they chew up the balls. And when you get the new balls, it's a real shock. The balls feel really light and fast for a couple of games until they get chewed up. But yeah, it's very slow.
Interesting. Well, we look forward to a few more updates from Paris Masters next week, hopefully when you're carrying another trophy. Incidentally, on slow conditions, that won't be music to the ears of Riley Opelka. Are you aware of how Riley Opelka got into this tournament, Calvin?
I saw that he pulled out and then was in.
I mean, so yeah, he got into the second round of qualies against Alexander Vukic and then pulled out injured and gave him a walkover into the main draw. But is now back in as a lucky loser, despite having not actually lost a match. I mean, how is that? It's probably in the ATP rulebook, Calvin.
Well, it might not have been this morning, James, and then was by about midday. I don't know.
How is that allowed?
I mean, I guess because you're out, so you lost. You lost in theory in the last round in qualifying. You can go. It's ridiculous. Look, I'm not trying to defend it. I'm trying to say what has happened. It's ridiculous, but. Somebody was saying yesterday that, maybe he knows. I don't know how they do the lucky loser, but somebody mentioned that he would have, the way that they do them, he would have had a 2 in 3 chance of getting in.
Yeah, you can know before you walk onto court because it's you half the players who lost.
Yeah, and
it's the highest ranked ones then go into the draw.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, it always makes my head hurt trying to do lucky loser maths, and I'm very grateful for the 3 people on Twitter who always do it really quickly and are obsessive about it.
I mean, it used to be, and I don't know why they've changed it, it used to be anybody, that if you lost in the last round of qualifying, all 8 went into a draw.
Was there something, and I can't work, it's too late at night and my brain stopped working, there is something about, does that not mean... I know, it should just be all 8 losers.
No, so what happened originally was what the way they seem to have gone back to doing it now is where it used to be the highest ranked player got it. I think now it's a kind of a hybrid.
It's drawn from the top 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what it used to be was that the highest ranked player of the losers was number 1 lucky loser. The problem with that was they got a lot of situations where people could look at who they'd drawn. So you could see who the qualifier plays this. Say qualifier plays Alcaraz, but you know that. Player X, who's ranked 60 in the world, is pulling out. If you're the highest ranked player in qualifying, in the last round of qualifying, you would just lose on purpose. So the qualifier wins and plays Alcaraz, and you get the lucky loser going into the better draw.
I see. And you could also have a sporting integrity issue where, if you're the last match in qualifying and you're the highest ranked player in the draw, and there's a lucky loser, you could just say to the other bloke, I'm not going to play, I'm just obviously going to lose.
Listen, James, I'm not going to say who it is, but I know players who have done it where if they've been playing their mates, and if they're the number 1 ranked player, if they're the highest ranked player in the qualifying draw, they've said to their mates, I'll throw the match, because we're both getting in. That way we both get in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it has happened, and it has involved British players as well. I know that. But a good few years ago, I think 15 or so years ago.
Should we move on before we actually libel someone, Calvin? Talking yourself into a lawsuit there. It's quite impressive.
I said I'm not naming the player.
Before we go, we are running out of time, but we've only got 2/3 of the way down the running order. So we're going to do a quick hit on Joao Fonseca, who has become the third youngest ATP 500 champion since the series began in 1990. I don't know how interesting that is, but he is young. He is 19 years old, and it is the biggest title of his career. And he did beat Alejandro Fokina in the final. Fokina, who's still 0-5 now in ATP finals, despite having championship points in 2 of them. But what I want to ask you, Calvin, is Fonseca's beaten your rule about halving your ranking. He's gone from 113 to 28 in a season now, and that title takes him into the top 30 for the first time. Do you see him halving his ranking again next year or better?
I'd be surprised if it's better. It wouldn't surprise me if he halves it. It's 14. Not my. I say if you halve it, you've had a good year. Like I'm not. That's what I'm saying. He's done better than halve it. He's had a great year. Look, there's superstars that come across that come around every so often, and they don't work on the same scale as the rest of society.
Do you think he's proving that he is that superstar?
I mean, he's had a bit of a rough patch before this tournament, to be fair, but he's a superstar, and it's great to see him. He's warming up today he's practicing today with Rafael Matos, doubles player, which proves that some doubles players can hit the ball all right, I suppose. And he's good. He's a nice kid, and his coach. I know his coach. Like, I always say hello to him, and we have a good chat. I think I've said before, he was at the NTC last year. He was going to train with Jack Draper, and Jack ended up getting injured and couldn't train. So we ended up sort of having a few long chats with his coach. He's a really nice guy.
Good to hear it. Well, we've not covered any of the WTA. Marta Kostyuk got in some sort of weird trouble this week by basically getting misrepresented in an interview, talking about how Sabalenka and Świątek have higher testosterone in their systems. It was later clarified that she meant entirely naturally, and it's just the way they are, and that's fine. Tennis 365 getting themselves in some hot water with that.
Is Tennis 365, by the way? Is Tennis 365 the same company as Football 365?
Yeah, so I think it's called Planet Football. It certainly used to be. They might have a different parent.
I thought Planet Football used to be different from 365, though. I used to go on all those websites. But
Planet Sport Group it is, yeah. They're all the same thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, Team Talk, Planet F1, Tennis 365, Planet Rugby, Planet Football, Planet Sport. Yeah. That's one for the niche digital content consumers. Yeah. But yes, go and read that. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I might put a link to the Athletics piece about it because it details the full U-turn.
When I was reading it, what Kostyuk said, he was basically saying they're physically more gifted than I am, and I was thinking, in what sports does that not happen?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, so I always found it like ridiculous remember when there was that woman who I always felt really Semenya?
Carla Semenya, yeah.
And people used to go, she's just physically more. She has more muscles than them. She has more testosterone. That's athletics. It's like no one was pulling Usain Bolt up on going, he has longer legs and more fast twitch muscles than we do. Literally, that's what athletics is. They're the most physically gifted people in the world. That's what they do.
This is great, Calvin. We didn't even mean to talk about this, and you're going to get 50 emails telling you why you're wrong about this.
Well, no, they might think that I'm wrong, but they're wrong. But that literally is what athletics is. And it was proven that girl wasn't cheating. It was naturally produced in her. And that's the same as Usain Bolt having really long limbs and fast twitch muscles. It's freaky. It is, yes. That's what athletics is.
Very good. Almost as freaky as Linda Noskova's run to the final in Tokyo.
Not quite, though.
Which I felt we had to mention. She got a walkover. She then beat McCartney Kessler in 3 sets. She beat Anna Kalinskaya 6-love, 1-love, another walkover. Elena Rybakina was so intimidated by that result that she didn't even come to court, gifting her a place in the final. I really wish she won the title because I would never wish injury on anyone, particularly not Belinda Bencic. But it would have been funny if Bencic had pulled out the final injured and Noskova had won the title. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. We wish George the best in his sick bed. Of course, I'm sure he'll be back next week. I will be recording from Athens next week, not because I'm going for the 250, because I'm going on holiday. I haven't quite broken it to my wife yet that I will be doing a podcast from our apartment in Athens, but we'll navigate that when we come to it. Calvin, you will hopefully still be in Paris this time next week, or at least booking a drunken Eurostar back home.
No, the tournament will be finished.
Yeah, but but if you win the tournament, you'll be like.
No, we're
out in
going
the sky.
to. I think we're going to Helsinki to train for a couple of days before Turin.
Crikey, never stops, does it?
No.
Anyway, thank you very much for listening as always, and for tuning in on YouTube. Do like and subscribe and do all those things that you have to do. Click the buttons, but most importantly, please come back next week.